Hello and welcome to this video where I'm going through the solutions to the questions on equations with indices. If you haven't already tried the questions and want to do so, there's a link in this video's description. So for question 1, we've got 4x cubed all to the power half. So to do this, we raise 4 to the power 1 half, and then we multiply the indices, so 3 times a half is 3 over 2. And this equals 250. Now 4 to the half just means the square root of 4, which we know is 2. So on the left we have 2x to the power 3 over 2 equals 250. We can divide both sides by 2. If you divide the left by 2, you get x to the power 3 over 2. And if you divide the right hand side by 2, you get 125. Now x to the power 3 over 2 can be rewritten as the square root of x cubed, which equals 125. Now to get rid of that cubed, we can cube root. So if we cube root both sides, we'll get square root of x, and the cube root of 125 is 5. And to remove that square root, we square both sides. So square the left and you get x, and square the right and you get 25. So the answer to this question is x equals 25. For this question, I would add x to the power negative 1/3 to both sides first. So on the left hand side, we'll just have 4x to the power 1/3, and on the right hand side, x to the power negative 1/3. Now we leave the left hand side as it is, 4x to the third, but the right hand side has a negative index, so we could rewrite this with the reciprocal, which is 1 over x to the power 1/3. Now what we can do is multiply both sides by x to the power 1/3. If we multiply the left hand side, we've got 4x to the third times x to the third, and on the right hand side, the x to the thirds will cancel, so we've just got 1. Now when you multiply things like this, you must add the indices, so we get 4x to the power 2/3 equals 1. And we can divide 4 on both sides. If we divide 4 on the left, we'll cancel this 4, and divide 4 on the right, we get 1/4. Now we can rewrite the x to the power 2/3 as the cube root of x squared. To remove the cube root, we can cube both sides. If we cube the left, then the root's gone, so we've just got x squared. And then we cube the right hand side, we need to do 1/4 cubed. You can do 1 cubed on the top, which is 1, and 4 cubed, which is 64. Now we've got x squared equals 1 over 64, so we need to square root both sides. If you square root the left, you get x. And if you square root the right, remember to take both the positive and negative roots, you get plus or minus 1 over 8. So there are two solutions to this equation. It's x equals 1/8 or x equals negative 1/8. I can start this question by multiplying by root x on both sides. So on the left we have 9x to the 3 over 2 and we multiply that by root x. And on the right, the root x will cancel, so we've just got 4. We can rewrite square root x as x to the power 1/2. And now we can use the multiplication law, so we add the indices, we get 9, x to the power 4 over 2 equals 4. Of course, 4 divided by 2 is just 2, so this is 9x squared equals 4. Now if we divide both sides by 9, we get x squared on the left, and on the right, 4 over 9. And to solve this, we can square root both sides. Remember again, there are two roots here, the positive and negative one. So square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 4 over 9 is plus or minus 2/3. So we get two solutions, x equals 2/3 or x equals negative 2/3. For this question, we'll start with the top of the fraction. So we need to raise 8 to the power 2, so 8 squared. And then we multiply the indices, so 1.5 times 2 is 3, so we've got x to the power 3. And of course 8 squared is just 64, so we've got 64 times x cubed, or 64x cubed. On the bottom of the fraction we've got the fourth root of x to the power 9. This could be rewritten as x to the power 9 over 4, and this equals 1. What we'll do next is divide both sides by 64. So on the left hand side the 64 will be gone, so we've got x cubed over x to the power 9 over 4, and this equals 1 over 64. Now if we look at the left hand side, this can be simplified. We've got a division, so we subtract the indices. So we need to do 3 take away 9 over 4, which gives you just 3 over 4. So x to the power 3 over 4 equals 1 over 64. X to the power 3 over 4 could be rewritten as the fourth root of x cubed equals 1 over 64. And to get rid of the cubed, we cube root both sides. So we get the fourth root of x. And if you cube root 1 over 64, you get 1 over 4. And to finish this off, we need to get rid of the fourth root, so we raise this to the power 4, so we need to do 1/4 to the power 4, which is 1 over 256. For this question, we rewrite all of them as powers of 3. So we've got 9 to the power x, but 9 is just 3 squared, so we have 3 squared to the power x. I know 27 is 3 cubed, but this is the reciprocal, so this is times 3 to the power negative 3. And on the right hand side over here, I've got 1 over 3 to the x, which could be rewritten as 3 to the negative x, and this is all raised to the power x. I can now use the bracket to the power law by multiplying these indices. We get 3 to the 2x times 3 to the negative 3, and if we multiply these ones, we get 3 to the power negative x squared. On the left hand side here, we have a multiplication, so we add the powers, so we get 3 to the power 2x minus 3 equals 3 to the negative x squared. Now they're both written as powers of 3, we can see that 2x minus 3 must be equal to negative x squared. If we add x squared to both sides, we get x squared plus 2x minus 3 equals 0, which is a quadratic. This one factorizes. We get x minus 1, x plus 3 equals 0, which gives us two solutions, x equals 1 and x equals negative 3. For this question, we'll start with the square root 5 to the power x. Anything to the square root is just to the power 1/2, so we've got 5x to the power 1/2. And on the bottom, we'll change the 25 into 5 squared, so we've got 5 squared to the power 3x, and this equals 0.2. We can now use the bracket to the power law, so we multiply the indices. So on the top, we have 5 to the power half x, and then on the bottom, we have 5 to the power 6x. The right hand side equals 0.2, which you should otherwise know as a fraction is 1/5. Now on the left hand side, if we subtract the indices because it's a division, we need to do half x, take away 6x, so we get 5 to the power negative 5.5x. And on the right hand side, we've got 1 over 5, which is just the same as 5 to the power negative 1. Now that they're written as powers of 5, we can equate the indices, so we have negative 5.5x equals negative 1. If we divide both sides by negative 1, we can lose the negative signs, so we get 5.5x equals 1. We could rewrite the 5.5x as an improper fraction, so 11 over 2, so 11 over 2x equals 1, and now we just multiply both sides by 2, and we get 11x equals 2, and then divide both sides by 11, and x equals 2 over 11. We're going to start this question by trying to rewrite everything we can as a power of 2. So 16 is a power of 2, it's 2 to the power 4, so we have 2 to the power 4 to the power x. Over on the right hand side, we've got 8 cubed. Now 8 is 2 to the power 3, so we have 2 to the power 3, and this is cubed, and then this in a bracket is cubed. And we have the 2 to the power 6 already as a power of 2, so that's 2 to the power 6 to the power 4. And on the bottom we've got 36, you can't write that as a power of 2. On the left hand side we've got a bracket, so we multiply those indices, so we get 2 to the power 4x. And on the right hand side we've got some tidying up to do. We've got the brackets again, so you can multiply the indices. Now we need to multiply 3 by 3 and then by 3 again. So 3 cubed, which is 27. So the big bracket here is 2 to the power 27, and the smaller bracket would just do 6 times 4, so 2 to the power 24. And we have 36 on the bottom. Now we'll leave the left hand side as it is, 2 to the 4x, and on the right hand side we're going to factorize the top. We can factorize out 2 to the power 24. Inside this bracket we'd get 2 cubed plus 1, and then this is over 36, and now we'll simplify what's inside the bracket. Inside the bracket we've got 2 cubed add 1, 2 cubed is just 8, so 8 add 1, which is 9. We can now simplify the 9 over 36, that simplifies to 1/4, so we've got 2 to the power 24 on the right, times 1/4, or 2 to the power 24 over 4. Now 4 can be written as a power of 2, that's 2 squared, and we have a division, so we subtract the indices. So 24 take away 2 is 22, so 2 to the power 22. Now we've written them as single powers of 2, we can equate those indices, so 4x equals 22, and then x equals 5.5. For this question, we'll try and write as much as we can as a power of 3. So we've got 9 to the power x, which is 3 squared, so 3 squared to the power x. And on the right hand side, 2 cubed, that can't be written as a power of 3, but we could multiply that out, 2 times 2 times 2, that's 8. And on the bottom, we can factorize 3 to the power 48. So we have 3 to the power 48, and inside the bracket, 3 squared take away 1. Now if we focus on what's inside that bracket, and simplify that bit, we've got 3 squared, which is 9, take away 1, which is 8. So this 8 will actually cancel out with the 8 on the top, so we just get 1 over 3 to the power 48. We could rewrite this as 3 to the power negative 48, and now we can equate those indices, so 2x equals negative 48, in which case x equals negative 24. For this question, we have lots of powers of 5. On the top, we have the bracket to the power law, so we can multiply x by x, so we have 5 to the x squared. On the bottom, we've got 25, which is 5 squared, so it's 5 squared to the power x. And on the right-hand side, 125 is just the same as 5 cubed. Now we can tidy up on the bottom with the bracket to the power law, 2 times x is 2x. So we'll keep the top, and on the bottom we have 5 to the power 2x equals 5 to the power 3. On the left-hand side here, we have a division, so we subtract the indices. So we could rewrite this as 5 to the power x squared, take away 2x. And now we can equate the indices, so x squared minus 2x equals 3. Subtract 3 from both sides, and you'll get x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals 0. And now factorize this quadratic. Is x minus 3x plus 1 equals 0, which gives you two solutions, x equals 3 or x equals negative 1. For this question, we've got lots of powers of 5. So 125 is just the same as 5 cubed, so we have 5 cubed, and then this is cubed. And 25 is 5 squared, so times 5 squared to the power x plus 1 equals 5 to the power 20. We can use the bracket to the power law, so multiply the indices. 3 times 3 is 9, so 5 to the 9, and then we multiply 2 by x plus 1, so 5 to the power 2x plus 2 equals 5 to the power 20. On the left we have a multiplication, so we'll add those, so we need to add 2x plus 2 and 9, which gives you 2x plus 11, so 5 to the power 2x plus 11 equals 5 to the power 20. Now we can equate those indices. 2x plus 11 must equal 20, so take 11 from both sides and 2x equals 9, and then divide both sides by 2, x equals 4.5. For this question we have lots of powers of 3, so 27 is 3 cubed, so we had 3 cubed to the power 4. 81 is 3 to the power 4, so we had 3 to the power 4 to the 2x, and 0.3 recurring is just 1/3, which is the same as 3 to the power negative 1. So now we use the bracket to the power law, let's multiply these, so 3 times 4 is 12, so 3 to the 12, and 4 times 2x is 8x, so 3 to the power 8x, equals 3 to the negative 1. On the left we have a multiplication, so we can add 12 and 8x, so it's 3 to the power 8x plus 12, equals 3 to the power negative 1, and now 8x plus 12 equals negative 1, subtract 12 from both sides, then 8x equals negative 13, and then divide both sides by 8, so x equals negative 13 over 8. In order to solve this equation, we're going to multiply both sides by x to the power 1/2. If we multiply x to the 3 over 2 by x to the half, we get x to the 4 over 2, and 20x to the negative 1/2, if you multiply that by x to the half, you get 20x to the 0, and if you multiply 9x to the half by x to the half, you get 9x to the 2 over 2. Of course 4 over 2 is just 2, and x to the 0 is just 1, so we can remove that, and 2 over 2 is just 1, and we don't normally write the power 1. If you subtract 9x from both sides now, you'll end up with a quadratic, so x squared plus 20 take away 9x equals 0. We normally write this with the 9x before the 20. And now we factorize, so x minus 4x minus 5 equals 0, which gives you two solutions, x equals 4 and x equals 5. We're going to multiply by x to the power 1/2 for this one as well, so we'll get x to the 4 over 2, plus 24x to the 0, plus 14x to the 2 over 2. We can simplify 4 over 2 to 2, the x to the 0 equals 1, and 2 over 2 is 1, which we don't write. Subtract 14x from both sides, and you'll get x squared plus 24 minus 14x equals 0. Again, we'll just switch the order of these terms so it looks like a quadratic. And now we can factorize. This one's x minus 2x minus 12 equals 0. So the solutions are x equals 2 and x equals 12. For this question, we're also multiplying by x to the half. So you get x to the 4 over 2 plus x to the 2 over 2 equals 12x to the 0. 4 over 2 is just 2, 2 over 2 is just 1, which we don't write, and x to the 0 is 1. If we subtract 12 from both sides, we get x squared plus x minus 12 equals 0. We can factorize this one, is x plus 4x minus 3 equals 0, which gives solutions, x equals negative 4 and x equals 3. But remember, in this question it does say for x is greater than 0, so we don't want the negative solutions here, they're not valid, so take away that x equals negative 4, and you just end up with x equals 3. For this question, we're also multiplying by x to the power 1/2. So for the first term, we do 3 over 2 plus 1 over 2, which is 4 over 2, so 2x to the 4 over 2, and this equals, and for the next one, we add a half and a half, so we get 2 halves, so 3x to the 2 over 2, and for the final term, negative a half plus a half is 0, so 4x to the power 0. We can simplify these, so 4 over 2 is 2, 2 over 2 is 1, but we don't normally write the 1, and x to the power 0 equals 1, so we can lose that. Once again, this is a quadratic. Let's get all of the terms on the left-hand side. So we'll subtract 3x and 4 from both sides. This will give us 2x squared, take away 3x, take away 4, equals 0. Now this quadratic is a little bit more difficult to solve compared to the other ones. For this one, we'll need to use the quadratic formula. So x equals negative b, but you can see b is negative 3, so that would become a positive 3, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 3 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is negative 4, all divided by 2 lots of a, so 2 lots of 2. If we simplify this a little bit, we end up with x equals 3 plus or minus the square root of 41, all divided by 4. And now we separate this into our two solutions, which are 3 plus square root 41 over 4, and 3 minus square root 41 over 4. You'll need a calculator for this one, so if you type both of those in, you'll get these two solutions. X equals 2.35, and x equals negative 8.51. Remember, the question asked you for 3 significant figures. The question also said for x is greater than 0, so we need to lose this negative solution. So the only solution to this question is x equals 2.35. In this question, we're multiplying by x to the power 1/3. So we'll start by doing 5/3 add 1/3, which is 6/3. And then we do 2/3 add 1/3, which is 3/3, so 2x to the power 3/3. And finally, negative a third add a third is 0, so it's 15x to the power 0. 6 over 3 is 2, 3 over 3 is 1, and we can lose that 1, and x to the power 0 is 1. Now we can subtract 15 from both sides, so we get x squared plus 2x minus 15 equals 0, and this one factorizes. So x plus 5, x minus 3 equals 0, and you get two solutions, x equals negative 5 and x equals positive 3. In this question, we're also multiplying by x to the 1/3, so we'll do the same thing. We end up with x to the power 6 over 3 plus 30x to the 0 equals 11x to the 3 over 3. 6 over 3 is 2, x to the 0 is just 1, and 3 over 3 is 1, but we don't write that one. Now we subtract 11x from both sides, we'll get x squared plus 30 minus 11x equals 0, and we'll switch the order around, and here's a quadratic. This one also factorizes. It's x take 6, x take 5 equals 0, which gives you two solutions, x equals positive 6 and x equals positive 5. In this question, we're multiplying by x to the 1/5. So we'll start with 9/5 plus 1/5, which is 10/5. And then for the right hand side, we do 4/5 add 1/5, so we get 7x to the 5/5. And for the final term, it's minus 6, and then we do negative a fifth add a fifth, which is 0. 10 over 5 is just 2, 5 over 5 is 1, and we don't write that 1, and x to the power 0 is 1. Now subtract 7x and add 6 to both sides. You'll end up with x squared, take 7x, plus 6 equals 0. And this one factorizes. Is x minus 1, x minus 6 equals 0, which gives you two solutions, x equals 1 and x equals 6. In this question, we're multiplying by x to the power 2/5, so we need to add 2/5 to each of the powers. So 8 over 5 plus 2 over 5 is 10 over 5. For the next term, negative 2/5 add 2/5 is 0. And for the final term, 3/5 add 2/5 is 5/5. 10 over 5 is just 2, x to the 0 is 1, and 5 over 5 is 1, but we don't write that 1. Now subtract 8x from both sides. You'll end up with x squared plus 12, take away 8x equals 0. We'll reorder those terms. And now we can factorize this one. It's x take away 6, x take away 2 equals 0, which gives you two solutions, x equals 6 and x equals 2. For this question, we have a bracket squared. When you square a bracket, you times it by itself. So let's write the bracket, and then times by itself. We can expand this. Let's start with 2x to the negative a half times 2x to the negative a half. You do 2 times 2, which is 4, and then you add the indices, so negative a half add negative a half just gives you negative 1, so it's 4x to the negative 1. Now we'll do 2x to the negative a half times x to the 3 over 2, so we've got 2, and then we add the indices, so negative a half plus 3 over 2 just gives you 1, so it's just plus 2x. We get the same result when we multiply these two terms, so another plus 2x. And then the final terms, x to the 3 over 2 times by itself. We add the indices here and we get x to the power 6 over 2, but 6 over 2 is 3, so it's just plus x cubed. Now, we can simplify this a little bit. We've got plus 2x, which makes plus 4x. And this is the left-hand side, nice and simplified. And we're told in the question the right-hand side is 9 plus x cubed. Now we have an x cubed on both sides, so we can subtract that. So we get 4x to the power negative 1 plus 4x equals 9. Now I'm going to rewrite the 4x to the negative 1 as 4 over x, and then I'm going to multiply both sides of this by x. So if I multiply the left-hand side by x, the 4 over x, well that x will cancel, so we just get 4, and then multiply 4x by x, that's 4x squared, and multiply 9 by x, that's 9x. Now subtract 9x from both sides, and we'll end up with 4x squared, take away 9x, plus 4 equals 0. So another quadratic. We need to use the formula to solve this one as well, so x equals 9 plus or minus the square root of negative 9 squared minus 4 times 4 times 4, all divided by 2 lots of 4. If we tidy this up a little bit, we end up with x equals 9 plus or minus the square root of 17 over 8. So we've got two solutions, which is 9 plus square root 17 over 8 and 9 minus square root 17 over 8. Use your calculator at this point and you'll get your two solutions. It asks for three significant figures in the question, and they come out as 1.64 and 0.610. Thank you for watching this video, I hope you found it useful. Check out the one I think you should watch next and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.